You're listening to KEMPIRE here on the KEMPIRE Radio Network.
Better late than never, I finally saw the Michael Jackson movie, Michael. Let's talk about my favorite moments, my critiques, what could have been better, what was perfect, and what have the people been saying, and I have thoughts. Let's get into it. All right, so finally, I don't know how many weeks it's been since the Michael Jackson movie came out, Michael, but I finally got a chance. I had to really just force myself to go and watch this movie. Not because I didn't want to see it. It's just because I also didn't want to go to the crowded theaters and things like that when it first came out. So I wanted to wait a little bit. But then everything just came up. I have to do this. I got to go here. I have a birthday trip. So finally, and honestly, it was worth the wait. It was definitely worth the wait because I got to see it in a theater with just a handful of people. There's still a lot of people I feel like going to the movies, probably more than I expected, but it was a good handful of people. I went to a small movie theater that I've never been to before. And I said, okay, I'm going to set out and watch this movie. Literally, this was after running around most of the day. I had to go check on some things. I had to come back. I had an appointment. I did some content stuff. And then I was like, okay, there's a 5 o'clock. Let me go see this movie. And I actually booked it. And I came back from an appointment. And then I went and I saw it. I don't know what's going on with the weather in New York City, but I can't even say spring. It's more like fall, the weather that we're experiencing in New York City. Anyway, you didn't come here for that. You came here to hear my thoughts on the Michael Jackson movie. Look, there have been so many complaints about this movie. And now I've seen it for myself, this is part of the reason why I didn't weigh in. I didn't do any short form content talking about the movie based off what people were saying. And this is why I always have to go and see something for myself. Hence why a lot of you always want to hear my opinion, because I'm going to give you my 100% opinion. I think Jafar Jackson, I heard so many people say, he did amazing. He was phenomenal. I heard from the family. I heard from the fans. And I said, I need to see it for myself. Because the Jermaine Jackson of it all, Jermaine probably really has turned into Joe Jackson. Shout out to Coleman Domingo. Because when I saw the makeup first, I was like, we all know what Joe Jackson looked like. And I didn't feel like they got the makeup 100% in regards to Joe Jackson. But he just embodied that role. I didn't even see Coleman. I just saw a villain. And I don't know if people want to spin a narrative and try and make Joe Jackson out to be something other than an abuser. Let's be honest, because I know there'll be the people that will say what you want about Joe Jackson, but he created Michael. He created that level of excellence. No, I think that level of excellence for Michael Jackson would have come regardless. Don't you? He's also a Virgo. Come on. Can we talk? He's also a Virgo. So I think that level of excellence would have come. And have we ever, because I don't remember from the miniseries us ever talking about Joe Jackson abusing Catherine. And look, abuse comes in many different forms. But I feel like this particular movie insinuated that there was more than just the intimidation that he had over Catherine. I don't know about anyone else. And I know Catherine's my Taurus sister, but I was a little frustrated with her. I probably, when watching the miniseries years ago, I was a little frustrated with her too, because I was like, step up, do something for Michael. But then when you think about, was she also abused, be it emotionally, physically? I don't know. I feel like this movie insinuated that there may have been some physical abuse. Or anyone else? Because the way he rolled up on her when she tried to step to him, I'm glad she's able to have some years without Joe Jackson. And look, I know that might be a controversial thing to say, but I have a feeling all of those children probably took a sigh of relief, just like, because do we think that Joe Jackson in his later years, even being an older man, an elderly man, he wasn't still aggressive? Not only was he aggressive to his family, he had people in the industry scared of him. There was a moment in the movie where Michael's basically, I want you guys to tell Joe that I would like to do my own solo album. And they're like, you want us to do what? Yeah. Also, I found it really interesting that a lot of people kept on saying, this is a very glossy version of Michael's life. And what about the abuse allegations? I'm not going to spoil it for you, but at this particular point, if you haven't seen the movie, I can't do anything for you. I feel like the way that they ended it left it open because for me, it was like a part one. It really felt like a part one. Michael Jackson had such a big life. He was famous since he was like 5 years old. Not really. how old was he? He was like 8. He was famous since he was a little boy. We had a mini series that had multiple episodes years ago. So there's no way in one movie could they capture Michael Jackson's life. And even the way that they ended this movie, there's so much more to Michael. There's so much more years after that particular era of his life where he's finally separated from Joe Jackson. Honestly, this first part I'm telling you that this is the pre to Michael Jackson, and then there will be the Michael Jackson era. And then maybe there's another. I could see this being a 3-part movie. And word on the street, according to sources, I believe even Lionsgate came out and said that they already have filmed 25 to 30%. Here's the thing. No Janet Jackson in the movie. Not that it stood out to me because I already knew going into it. But where is Rebe? There's LaToya throughout the movie, and LaToya was at the premiere. But LaToya probably was just, you want me to be in the movie? Then you have to pay me. Michael Jackson is taking care of his family still, and I think that's exactly what we see in this movie, where he goes on the victory tour. Dare I say, Michael Jackson probably would still be with us if that Pepsi commercial didn't happen, because they insinuate that maybe this is when he started abusing pills, allegedly, because of the burn marks that he had. He did that out of obligation. This is a lesson to all of us that family obligation could damn near take your life. And Michael still, because he wanted to take care, I think there was not just an obligation to family or an obligation to Joe. I don't think Michael had an obligation to Joe Jackson. I think he wanted to help his brothers. More importantly, because the brothers without him they were fledgling. They were not having a big solo career. So the brothers really did rely on Michael. And look, let's be honest, can we have a real conversation? The estate of Michael Jackson is taking care of not just Catherine Jackson, but his entire family. All of them are living with Catherine Jackson right now. And after Catherine passes on, the estate of Michael Jackson will continue to take care of the Jacksons. Okay? Let me go back. So the movie gives you the early years, how it all began from when he was a little boy. And it's just so crazy to me. And I don't know, I'm assuming they use original Michael Jackson audio throughout the entire movie. It's obvious in certain parts, but I'm assuming that they use some of it in regards to some of his live performances and things like that. Shout out to all the actors in it. They did a fantastic job. Again, you don't see Janet Jackson in it. It doesn't stand out to me because, again, Janet was very little during these years. Janet being in part 2, I just can't imagine them doing a part 2 to this movie and no mention of Janet Jackson. Yes, Michael Jackson had a big life, but Janet Jackson is a huge part of the Jackson story. Especially now, of all the Jacksons, it's Michael and Janet. Yes, there's the siblings and things like that we know of, but those are 2 icons in the Jackson family. And yes, Janet will probably have her own movie or whatever it may be, but I can't imagine them doing a part 2 without an inclusion of Janet, because now it's the older years. They don't have to include a lot of Janet because, look, it's really his story. Michael had such a big life. There's so much to tell. Did I miss seeing Diana Ross in it? No, I really didn't. Because yes, Diana Ross, huge star, part of her story. She has her own story, probably will have her own movie. But that is just a part of the story. I think people sensationalize, oh, Janet's not in the movie. She didn't want to be a part of the movie. She thought the movie was trash, blah, 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 blah. Now that I've seen it for myself, I don't think so. I don't think Janet was needed. She probably was asked and she politely declined. That's according to LaToya Jackson. She politely declined. I'm okay with it because in this iteration of the movie, she wasn't needed. She was a little girl at the time. I don't understand why Rebe wasn't in the movie, though, because Rebe is the eldest daughter. So I'm like, not seeing Rebe or an actress play Rebe be around stood out to me. But okay, you know what else stood out to me? The CGI of Bubbles. That wasn't needed. Yes, Bubbles was a part of the Michael Jackson mystique, but the constant, if we had that one little moment with him being introduced to Bubbles or just Bubbles being around, there's a little too much Bubbles in this movie for me. Sidebar, Bubbles is still alive. Bubbles is in a sanctuary somewhere. I forgot where it is. Right when the movie came out, I saw where he was. Michael Jackson is still, his estate still takes care of Bubbles. Michael had this movies. I know a lot of people wanted to see a darker side. They wanted to see the real. They wanted to paint Michael in a different light. First of all, I would not imagine the estate of Michael Jackson as also co-producing this movie would paint Michael Jackson in any other light than the light that we see him in this movie. I would not expect it. Why would they? It's his estate. But I also think, and I think why people still love Michael Jackson to this day, is because Michael Jackson was genuinely a good person. Yes, there were allegations against him, which were subsequently, he was acquitted. So I didn't see a problem with the depiction of this phenomenal artist who was bigger than the allegations, who was bigger than the persona. His music, his talent, like he was incredibly talented. What also stood out to me, shout out to Amanda Francis from the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She didn't create Manifestation. But did you guys pay attention to these little elements that I don't think people knew about Michael in regards to, we knew his work ethic. We knew how intentional he was. We knew how talented he was. I don't think we knew about the affirmations, the power affirmations, how he spoke into himself. The first time he recorded his solo project with Quincy Jones, before he even uttered a single note, he's saying, "I am the greatest of all time." I saw a lot of Beyonce in this movie in regards to someone on that level. I'm not saying Beyonce and Michael are the same. We already know how people are going to get into that. They're not. There will never be another Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was unique. But Beyonce is unique. Both Virgos, by the way. I don't know what else in their birth chart might be similar. I'm sure there probably are some similarities in their birth charts. I'll have to ask Femme Tarot in regards to their birth charts if there's any similarities. But I can see the level of attention to detail, perfectionism. Michael's perfectionism was on a whole other level in regards to his music, to his style, to his lifestyle, to the way he looked. He was like, I need to perfect. Yeah, he had image issues. Some of those image issues stems from his father and how his father would mention things. You already know in your family, some of your worst critics are your parents or your siblings. And they don't realize these little digs that they take at you when you're a kid stays with you as you become older. So I don't blame Michael for making the changes that he did. But this first part to the Michael movie is really about his relationship with Joe and breaking free from Joe Jackson and finding his own voice. And that's, for me, is the entire thing. I was wondering how it would end. It was like a 2.5 hour movie. It didn't feel that way. I really was, okay, I thought it was going to be longer. But when it ended, I was like, oh, that's it? Because there's so much more to Michael's life that could have been told. And apparently it will be. I could see this being a 3-parter. And I can see in part 2 them talking about the allegations. And then they will probably paint it the way that it worked out. He was acquitted. As there are new allegations that have come out and his estate is being sued. But that also happens when your estate is now worth billions of dollars. This movie is going to make it even worth even more. I came out of that movie, I said, I need to listen to some Michael Jackson music. His catalog, his song Billie Jean hit the global charts at #1. Michael Jackson is the only artist to have this level of success in 6 different decades. The man was incredibly talented. And this movie is going to introduce a whole new generation to the iconicness that is Michael Jackson. Jafar Jackson, his nephew, Jermaine Jackson's son. I'm not going to get into Jermaine Jackson. We've already talked about this endlessly. Whatever. You don't really even see Jermaine. I will say this, based off the movie, because I couldn't tell who the actors were playing as the brothers unless they were named out in the moment where they's like, oh, Randy or Marlon. For the most part, throughout the movie, and you guys will let me know, throughout the movie, I was just like, which one is Marlon? Which one's Randy? Which one's supposed to be Jackie? I didn't pay attention, but shout out to the actors. It was an incredible role. This wasn't about y'all. But Jafar Jackson, again, like I said before, I felt like so many people were like, he did an incredible job. I had to see for myself. I was not hating. I said, let me see for myself. I can't go by what other people are saying. All I had seen before seeing the movie were clips, and I wasn't impressed. I was just like, I don't know about this. I don't know about the makeup and the things like that. Oh, it was beyond. And it just says to me that he is very talented, and it will be interesting to see if he pursues acting in another way, in other roles, because the way that he was able to play his uncle, I wonder, first of all, we already know method acting for people that are even related to who they're playing sometimes can be so stressful. I just saw, I forgot the young lady's name who played Whitney Houston in the movie, the big movie that they did about her life. I forgot her name. She's British. She said that invoking that character took so much from her. She needed therapy. Michael Jackson is huge. His nephew, first of all, there's the family connection, but then you're trying to encompass this art that is your uncle. You're trying to create that on stage. You're learning the dance moves. You're learning how to speak like him, smile like him, gesture like him. You're invoking that energy, that star energy. I would love to hear his process in getting into that. I've heard from the family that Jafar already has Michael's like quiet, soft-spoken energy, but he was able to really master the way that Michael sounds, gestures, those dances. First of all, I know there will be the big Michael stands who are like, oh, it wasn't that great. He wasn't perfect. It was good. He learned how to really invoke Michael Jackson throughout this movie. I was really impressed with how he did that and how he transitioned as he was getting older in the movie and he was changing and things like that. One of the beautiful things that we also saw about Michael Jackson throughout the movie was how much he still loved children and was giving back to children and giving back to the people. We saw the creation of the different projects that he did, how his whole creative process and how that worked out. Shout out to Lorenz Tate. Shout out to all the actors, to the actor, I forgot his name, that played Quincy Jones. Everyone did a good job. Shout out to Nia Long. Word on the street, Nia Long is suing, or not suing, maybe she might be suing. Allegedly, she's not come out. I haven't seen any lawsuit. But word on the street is that she's pushing back because there was a clause in her contract that that Coleman Domingo, her co-star, could not make more than her. And word on the street, he did make more than her. But that's the rumor right now. Before we get into my thoughts on Nia Long's performance, today is brought to you by our friends over at Bowl and Branch. You guys are always complimenting me on my skin, and it's because I take care of my skin. But it's not just about diet. It's not just about the products that you use. But what about your bedding? What about the place that you spend probably most of your time where your skin is being touched by it? It's your sheets. And one of the things that I've invested in is quality sheets where I lay my head. Some people don't even think about this when it comes to their skincare. And your skincare is not just about your face, it's about your entire body. So I'm excited about Bowl and Branch being a sponsor for today's live because they have quality sheets. Bowl and Branch bedding, from their organic cotton sheets to their breathable pillows and comforters, is made with ultra clean materials that are gentle on the skin and free from harsh chemicals. Their fabrics are breathable, soft, and temperature regulating, so you're not overheating or tossing and turning. Because some of why you can't sleep at night is because of your sheets. When your entire bed is made with better materials, it supports the kind of sleep that actually helps your skin recover overnight. A lot of people start with the signature sheets and then add the matching pillowcases and a waffle blanket. I've been loving their sheets, their waffle blanket, but specifically, I forgot the color. I think it's like a taupe that I got. Oh, I'm loving it against my skin. I really am. Because the combination makes the whole bed feel softer and cooler. It's one of those upgrades where you notice the difference the very first night. But of course, as I said to you guys before, I've been trying it out for the last few nights and I'm enjoying, first of all, it feels luxurious. Even the presentation on how they sent me the waffle sheet and the sheet set, I was like, okay, first of all, presentation is phenomenal. There are birthdays coming up, there are holidays coming up. This would be a fantastic gift to give to someone that you love, even yourself. And one of the things, and I've talked about this before, about pouring into yourself, it was just my birthday, getting luxurious sheets, new sheets, fresh sheets on your bed that feel comfortable, that are, especially with how up and down the weather has been here in New York City, and I'm sure other cities where you guys are watching from, these sheets are perfect. They're cooling, they're comfortable, they're luxurious. Get into it. As always, you know there's a holiday coming up, and I've gotten you a discount. Get 20% off your first order plus free shipping during the Memorial Day sale at bowlandbranch.com/KEMPIRE with code KEMPIRE. That's Boll and Branch, BOLLAND, branch.com/KEMPIRE with code KEMPIRE to get 20% off. bowlandbranch.com/KEMPIRE. Code KEMPIRE. Exclusions apply. More information on Boll and Branch. Today's live sponsor will be available in the description. Thanks, Boll and Branch. And shout out to Boll and Branch for sponsoring Caps and Movie. It's Memorial Day, guys. Go get your sales. Oh my, I'm loving the sheets. Anyway, so back to this. Nia Long. First of all, I knew Nia looked the part. First of all, Nia's beautiful, but she looked the part. And this is a credit to both Nia Long and Coleman Domingo. I'll get to Coleman in a second. Nia, if you really pay attention to the subtleness, the softness, the subduedness of Katherine Jackson, we haven't seen a lot of Katherine Jackson, but Nia wasn't Nia Long in that role. That was probably some of the best acting I've seen from Nia Long. That was just so subtle. She didn't have to do a lot, but she did a lot in the subtleness of her gestures. And even her interaction with Coleman Domingo, their chemistry was amazing. Coleman Domingo, you could see it in his eyes. You can see it in the way he formed his body when it comes to playing Joe Jackson. And here's the thing, I haven't seen the mini-series that they did about the Jacksons so many years ago, because I really would love to compare the other actor. He was phenomenal too. He was phenomenal playing Joe Jackson. But I didn't see that actor, and I saw this version that Coleman Domingo gave us. Because let's be honest, we only know Joe Jackson through these interpretations of Joe Jackson. We have not seen Joe Jackson ourselves. We haven't seen that side of Joe Jackson, maybe in a couple of interviews and things like that. But it was interesting to see Coleman Domingo's version. At first, when I saw the pictures of the makeup, I was like, I don't know what I'm looking at. Because at first it was almost giving parody, but when Coleman plays the role, you're like, oh, he embodies it. Literally, the body, the eyes, the voice. We'll get back to Coleman and Joe Jackson in a second. Back to Nia Long. Nia really played the softness of Katherine Jackson, the kindness of Katherine Jackson. The moments where I got annoyed with Katherine Jackson, do something, to protect Michael. And she didn't, but Michael still loved his mom. Even when he got that burn from the Pepsi commercial. And you could see, Jafar, you played the hell out of that too. Because that was probably the one time that I cried in that movie. I teared up. I didn't cry because I didn't boo-hoo, but I teared up. It was that scene between Nia Long and Jafar playing Michael and Katherine, where he's in the hospital. You could tell Michael was frustrated with his mother, but at the same time, he was just like, it's not your fault. She's tearing up. He's tearing up. Michael's in the hospital with his own burn marks. He's lost his hair. His hair is not going to grow back. That's why he started wearing wigs. But he's giving back to the kids in that hospital. The money that he got back from Pepsi for that 7 figures that he got, he gave all of that to the hospital, to the burn unit. These are beautiful moments. And here's the thing, in our society, we focus so much on that one bad thing or that one thing that came out that he was acquitted of. Let's call it a thing. And we don't focus on all the good someone may have done in the world. And we're not even just talking about the good of the music that he's given to the world, but all the good that Michael has given to people over the years and the amount of money he's raised for helping other people, the songs he's created to help other people. So we have that. Joe Jackson, a.k.a. Coleman Domingo's character. So in part one, that's what I'm calling it, part one. That's exactly how it felt, part one. we have Joe Jackson. Basically, we see him launch their careers. He gets them to Motown, but that's when you start to see the shift between Joe Jackson losing his power over those boys. And it was in the very beginning, because now Berry Gordy is very much involved and was like a father figure to Michael Jackson, like a real father figure, because Michael couldn't even call Joe Jackson daddy. He didn't feel connected to Joe Jackson in that way. He felt like, this is a man that controls me, basically. And it's kind of crazy, because even in the hospital after Michael had the Pepsi commercial accident, I'm assuming this is a real conversation, that Joe Jackson says to the doctor, when will he be able to get back on stage again? And everyone's just, is that all you're concerned about? Yep, that's all he was concerned about. And I believe that. I believe here's the thing. What we see in part one, I'm sure Joe Jackson would not be happy with this movie, because you guys are painting me one way, which is interesting, because when you look at the lives of Michael Jackson and the lives of Beyonce, not to say that Matthew Knowles is a Joe Jackson, at least we don't know. We knew that he was hard on those girls when he was forming Destiny's Child, but there's a little bit of a similarity in regards to the toxicity of who they are as individuals. I'll just say that. I'll say that much. But I definitely don't think Tina Knowles is a Katherine Jackson. No, I do not think that Tina Knowles is nobody's punk. Okay? And not to say that Katherine Jackson, but she was very timid. She was very withdrawn. I don't think Tina Knowles was withdrawn like that. But anyways, I've digressed. But for me, the entire movie really is about Michael Jackson gaining his freedom from Joe Jackson. Bill, his bodyguard, I think his name is Bill. I never even knew that this guy was assigned to Michael at a very young age and stayed by Michael's side for years after that. For years. And it's so great seeing now, since the Michael movie, so many people that toured with Michael, some of the background singers and their children are coming out with stories. Oh, I toured with Michael. And they have these really beautiful stories about touring with Michael and really giving you who Michael is versus what people think about Michael Jackson. But it was great to see the dancing, the lights, the camera, action. All of that was superb. Shout out to Antoine Fuqua, who directed this movie. He did a really good job in regards to putting and piecing this together, along with the estate and all the people that put this together. The musical transitions and everything like that. It definitely, if you are a Michael Jackson fan, it's going to entice you. And for those that haven't seen it, you can still see it. It's still in theaters. It still has a lot of times in theaters. It's not in IMAX anymore, which I was disappointed. I kind of wanted to see in IMAX, but I feel like you'll still enjoy it despite. But you never know. I wouldn't be surprised if they put it back in IMAX. But the musical performances were incredible. Seeing Michael's growth, seeing Jafar perform these segments. Again, not only did he invoke Michael Jackson with the way he spoke, the way he carried himself, the way he looked into people's eyes, or the innocence, things like that. You see that. But those dance moves are not easy. I got chills, but I will always get chills when I see that performance of Michael Jackson at the 25th anniversary of Motown, and he does the moonwalk for the very first time, televised. I got chills in the theater watching that, and I was like, oh my God. The fact that he was able to do all of that work, and he already knew the amount of pressure that was on him. You are the nephew of Michael Jackson. Everyone's eyes are going to be on you in this movie. I think he did a superb job. I do not say that lightly. There were some moments, I'm not going to lie to you. There were some moments I was like, you could see, but again, there's no other Michael Jackson. And that's not just talking about musically. We're talking about even dancing. But for what it was, Jafar did his thing. Jafar really went above and beyond what I would have expected. Because again, you really can't recreate a Michael Jackson, not artificial intelligence. You can't recreate a Michael Jackson. The same I would say, you can't recreate a Beyonce. People will try, people will come close. You can't recreate a Whitney Houston. So many people have tried. All these industries, they get a Whitney Houston or someone they think they can sing. It's just not the same. It's not the same. But Jafar did his thing. For what it was, he did an incredible job in regards to acting like Michael Jackson, performing like Michael Jackson. It was good. It will make you want to listen to some Michael Jackson movie right after. I went for a nice little long walk. I took the long way home because I was just like, you know what? I'm going to listen to some Michael Jackson. I'm just like, the breeze in my hair, the breeze in my imaginary Jerry curl as I'm walking, just listening to the music. Yes, Michael Jackson, the greatest of all time. And the reason why he was the greatest of all time is because he invoked it. He literally invoked it before he sang. God only knows. I wish we had more from Michael. This movie made me want to go rewatch the This Is It documentary. I have it on DVD, but that's in an attic somewhere hidden. Not hidden, but we're in. I don't even have a DVD player, so I don't even know how I would play or Blu-ray player. I'm gonna stream it though because I remember watching This Is It, and I was like, this man was incredible. I wish he had the opportunity to do that last show or set of shows because he literally said, this is it. In the movie, when he decides to find his freedom from Joe Jackson, he decides, despite the universe giving him that moment of, you don't want to do this, but you're doing this. And now you've gotten into this accident. He still decides to do this last tour. I think he was doing it for his brothers because he knew. I think there's an underlying sentiment of, this is for the brothers. This is the only way that they're going to make money and do well for themselves and take care of their families. Because that's the other element we're not talking about here. Taking care of the family, taking care of their kids and partners and things like that. There are those elements there that I think is the reason why Michael decided to do this tour. But on this last tour, he says this will be the last tour. Joe Coleman Domingo is in the sidelines. What you mean? What you mean? He tries to confront him. But his bodyguard is just, it's done, Joe. It's done. Michael finally finds his freedom, and that's how the movie basically ends. Not really, but it goes into Michael's next chapter, which was incredible to watch this performance. Again, it feels like the end. I think people not knowing that there was going to be another portion to this movie will probably watch the movie like, that's it? There's so much more to Michael's life beyond after that victory tour. There's so much more. You get to see a little bit of that, but there's so much more. Hence why I thought it was shocking that people were like, why didn't they talk about the allegations? Well, the allegations didn't come until after that, at least from my recollection, was the 90s, early 90s. So if I had to rate this movie, I would give it a 10. Yeah, it wasn't perfect, but it was great. They did a great job. I think every fan will enjoy it. I think even if you are a slight fan, you'll enjoy it. I think you will become a fan if you watch this movie. Jafar did well. I love the way that it was edited. John Branca, who is over the Michael Jackson estate, we also see his role in Michael's life play out there. We also get to see Michael, because Michael Jackson was the first black person to ever be played on MTV. The fact that we're talking about this in the 80s, MTV wasn't playing black artists. He had to fight and demand to be played. Can you imagine what we're dealing with today in 2026 when it comes to stuff like that? When we talk about representation? So he had to fight for that. And look, Michael Jackson was never just a black artist. He was always an international global artist. If you ever saw any of his concerts, then you saw the people, everybody of every shape and color were falling out over Michael Jackson. I have not seen what we saw in the likes of Michael Jackson since, where people were passing out and over him. People love Beyonce. I don't see them passing out over Beyonce. Yes, they're screaming and they love Beyonce. This is not to compare. I'm just saying, we don't see that. Michael Jackson was otherworldly. Did he create that? Could be. He came here for that? Definitely. If you haven't seen it, or if you have seen it, please let me know your thoughts. I loved it. I would give it 10 out of 10. I thought it was phenomenal. I look forward to part 2. I think they will listen to what a lot of people said about part 1 and probably make some notes. According to reports, the part 2 is 25 to 30%. I could see this being a 3-parter. I really could see. Part 3 would be like the later years with the children and the This Is It project and that kind of thing. I could see that. I definitely think it should be a 3-parter, to be honest. I think part 2 would be the allegations. You could talk about the Dangerous album. We could talk, there's so much, there's a lot of stuff. The History album, him fighting against the label. There's so much to Michael Jackson's life that could be told. There's no way you can do it in one movie. Yes, they've done it for other artists, but Michael Jackson's different. Michael Jackson has been famous since he was 8 years old. And then he died later on in life. He had so many albums, projects, highs, lows, just so much. We shall see. I also saw that Paris Jackson, his daughter, had another legal win against the estate in regards to them not managing the money correctly. I know people have their feelings about the estate, but when you see someone like John Branca in the movie, yes, they're producing the movie, but he was there at the beginning for Michael as a solo artist. And Michael apparently put this man in place. And I know some people are like, did he really? The conspiracy theorists. No, I really, honestly, after watching this movie, believe that Michael put this man in place because he knew his family couldn't do it. His brothers couldn't do it. His mom definitely couldn't do it. Joe Jackson? What's Joe Jackson? Joe Jackson was still alive. Yeah, Joe Jackson was still alive. He did not want Joe Jackson having control over that. And say what you want. I don't think anyone would see the way that the estate is handling Michael's affairs would see it perfectly. But one thing for sure, they definitely made sure that his kids and his entire family will be taken care of for the rest of their lives. Not perfect, but Michael put these individuals in place for a reason. And I think that was to protect his children, to take care of his children, and to make sure that, remember, if you look at Michael, the business moves that Michael has made, including the publishing where he controlled the Beatles publishing, hence why some people say that they took him out because of his control of the ATV Sony publishing that he had, because that eventually, after he died, was sold. Just saying. People do have those conspiracy theories. But he made smart business moves. Michael was no dummy. I believe he did put these people in place in order to protect his legacy, his music, his money, and his children. Doesn't mean that they are perfect. The children are now grown and they have a voice, and they should have a voice. I'm looking forward to part 2 and part 3. This needs to be like Michael Jackson's Act 1, Act 2, Act 3. Is there any more Michael Jackson unreleased music? Maybe that will come too. We shall see. Guys, I want to know your thoughts. Let me know your thoughts about the Michael Jackson movie, how you'd rate the Michael Jackson movie. What was your favorite? What were your critiques? What was the one thing that you wish was included in part 1? And don't tell me about what could happen in part 2 and part 3. In part 1, did you miss the fact that Janet wasn't in there? Did you miss that Diana Ross wasn't in there? Remember, Kat Graham came out and said that she did film for this movie, but because of legal reasons, were part of the reason why her scenes were cut out. Again, yes, Diana Ross was an important part of Michael's beginning, but I don't feel like it changes the story. If this movie is about Michael Jackson, I don't think it changes the story. I don't think that it felt empty without Diana Ross or with Janet Jackson, especially because this is the early years. Guys, let's continue this conversation in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed my recap. I know you waited weeks for this recap. Now I got to go watch Devil Wears Prada. I want to see Is God Is. And I want to see, there's another movie. Oh, I love Boosters. Stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you're listening to the podcast version, make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And don't forget to join our mailing list. Head on over to thekempire.com/join. That specific link will take you to our mailing list. It's free. If you want to know the exclusives, I'm actually going to let the mailing list know when this is available before you even see this. So shout out to our mailing list. I'll see you guys in the next one. Thanks so much for being here. Bye, y'all.
Thanks for tuning in to KEMPIRE here on the KEMPIRE Radio Network. Don't forget to give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. For more information on the podcast, head on over to KEMPIREradio.com.